The hype car has just been sliding down the slippery slope ever since Nintendo announced a Direct. And yesterday, that car of hype, it crashed into a box of games. Some of us were hoping for a Mario Maker sequel, maybe even expecting it. But no one expected Nintendo would catch us with our pants down. And we walked away from that Direct completely shell-shocked. So I managed to get my car back on the road this morning. And today, I just want to grab my headlights, shine them down on some details that were maybe easy to miss or just plain interesting. Now, I am not going to be doing a comprehensive list of every single item and enemy and scene that we saw in there. As much as I'd love to, I would prefer that you stayed awake to the end of my video, and there was a lot. So instead, let's get into some things we might have missed, and maybe a little bit of speculation here as well. Also, Cooper crashing a car with no pants on, not something I wanted to wake up to. Our first really interesting detail here is editing on the TV. Now, I know a lot of you are probably like, you've got to be able to edit on the TV, and I'm in the same boat. You've got to be able to edit on the TV, but they haven't confirmed anything. And so I've decided to just try to jump through here and look at some of the things that kind of do confirm that, or maybe suggest that we will be able to. And the first one here is one that's really easy to miss. And that is when jumping through the scenes here, you notice there's an edit button down the bottom left corner. There's one single scene with this edit button, it changes slightly, and the minus gets smaller on it, it seems to get more detail, and the shadowing gets better. That leads me to believe this is the one scene that we've actually seen of this game in TV mode. Of course, we don't get to see the edit screen in TV mode, but we get to see the edit button being down there. There are a few other things here that do lead us to believe that as well, like obviously having the radial menus, that's with stick controls. Stick controls make sense if you just want to be able to sit back on the couch. And a lot of the editing has directional controls. In other words, you'll notice that when you're placing something down, sometimes if you're like placing a pipe or something, you have certain directions that you can just press to just place it in that direction instead of having to point at the screen, which is what I'm assuming it's going to be here, because you'll notice in the editing menu, there's not a lot of keybinds around the outside. So it makes me believe that a lot of it is just going to be pointer controls still, which would mean you might not be editing on your Pro controller. It's still up in the air though, as with all of this. Our next really interesting detail just clips the corner of the screen as we change into the jungle scene here. You notice at the top corner, there's actually a purple block, which probably has you thinking, Eric, that's just a jungle level. It's most likely the bricks or the blocks in that level are just purple. And like, yeah, possibly. I mean, I'm with you there. That's definitely a possibility. But just a little bit of evidence against that, just so we can have a little bit of a back and forth here. If we jump into some other levels, you'll notice that the underground level of 3D World, as well as the overworld and the underwater world levels, whatever you want to call them, all have grey blocks. So while it's most likely the purple block, just for the jungle level, it's also a possibility that maybe there's some sort of editing that we can do here. Maybe some sort of colouring or something along those lines. Further pointing towards this is up the top corner, you'll notice the little dude with eyes, and next to the frog dude with eyes. Apparently anything with eyes is a dude now. While we know the frog is for sound edits, we got no idea what that little block dude does, so maybe this is some sort of finer edits here. But again, this is just speculating, going a little bit too far, so let's move on. Now, we touched on these custom wheels before, but we didn't really go deep into them because they might actually let us know more than they're letting on here. So if we grab our goggles and dive a little bit deeper here, you'll notice that obviously there's the colors between the different wheels, but these also align with the colors that you've selected when you're in the editing menu. In other words, each item that you selected has a little strip across the top, and this little strip of color will tell you what category it came from, and these can be done in any order. We see them constantly change up. Also, the magnifying glass on the right hand side opens back up the custom wheel menu. And then lastly, the most interesting detail that we see from this custom wheel menu is up the top there, you'll notice there's some little dots. These dots will tell you how many color wheels are in each category. Now, what is most interesting about this is you'll notice Super Mario 3D World has 3 green dots, while Super Mario World has 4. Now that's hinting at, there's certainly no confirmation, but that is hinting at the fact that we probably won't be able to just switch like we could in the other one. You could just switch theme at any point that you want, and everything could carry over to the other theme. It looks like you might not be able to do it in this one. Further hinting towards that is you'll notice that each one of the radio menus, again going between these two, some of them have 7 and some of them have 8 items to it. So back to Super Mario 3D World has 7 and 8, where if we go to Super Mario World theme again, it has 7 and 7 in the green themes. So the fact again that these have different amount of options makes me think that things aren't just there to carry over to the next one, and perhaps we won't see that come across, which would make sense because it allows for so much more flexibility between what they decide to add into the game. And it certainly makes me happy that they can add more in between themes. I'm happy to stick with the same theme and not change between themes once I started if it means I get a whole bunch more freedom and stuff added for me to play with. While we're touching on edits, let's talk about level edits and the coin challenges, or that's what we're assuming these are, that we see. So in the middle of a level, you've probably noticed that at the top left corner, obviously you've got your coin count, and then sometimes next to that, we have a required amount of coins to achieve. There's a few interesting things about this. So first of all, we know that we can set that to any number, considering at one stage we see it at like numbers like 50, and then we see it go to like just a random number like 113. What we don't know is what that actually means. Does this mean there's just a challenge for the level? Like try to get this many coins before finishing it, and maybe like the 3DS version had the challenge medals and you get a medal for doing that? And maybe we can just set different challenges, like maybe we're not seeing all the different challenges that we can do here. Or is this an actual level requirement? Because we do see this down next to the flag on the side menu there. Maybe these are, you can change your level requirement to finish the level. Maybe it's collect 50 coins and you'll finish the level. Maybe it's like instead of just getting to the flag. And maybe again, we have different options we can choose from. That's something we probably shouldn't be speculating too deeply on, because the more we look at it, the more our expectations might rise on this thing when it might just be there for coin count. Now, if you avert your gaze to the side of the screen when they had the editing menu up, you'll notice that there was a grayed out icon next to where you can select a level type. There's also one next to the camera, but we'll get to that in a sec. We really have no idea what this grayed out icon is. It looks like a boat. Could be a boat, we don't really know. And the reason why I'm assuming it's a boat is because it could affect water levels. Like we never had any type of anything but underwater levels in the old Mario. But this one, it seems like we can have actual water levels. We can affect the level of the water. That makes more sense. So it's possible this button could do just that. Now the grayed out item next to the camera, we have a little bit more of an idea of that one, because at one scene we see it change, and it changes to a bird with a feather next to it. And this affects what they call the custom scroll. So you can basically scroll the level up and down and on angles and affect the speeds as it goes. As always with this entire presentation, I think what's most interesting is what aren't we seeing here? What else is locked behind that button that I just want to push on and find out? And I'm gonna have to wait. Now, while we're still sticking with edits, there's one that you may have missed because it only popped up for a couple frames. And this is when you're placing down this giant piranha plant here. You'll notice there's a couple frames where we actually see a new edit menu open. And this is a quick menu for adding effects. So you notice you can instantly make him big, or parachute, or whatever the other options are. You can change the fire type. You can change his type really quickly, which is much better than the old method of dragging and dropping every single effect that you wanted to do, or having to shape them. This is just cool and a great feature. Something that you've undoubtedly noticed, but we'll touch on quickly, is the zoom levels. So you notice that there's the average zoom that we always see with Mario Maker, and then there's a zoom in. This is where, again, if we look at the part where we're placing a piranha plant, this is actually zoomed in here. The blocks look quite large. And then of course, at the start of the trailer, we see a really big zoom out. And it's at this screen that we can see how you can do it, because at the top right corner, you'll notice that there's a button that you can press the analog stick to do the zoom out effect. Or affect the zoom in general, I guess. Before we move on, there's one more thing that I want to touch on with the edit menu, and that's down the bottom right-hand corner. You'll notice there's a little trolley down there that says 1, and on one scene it actually says 2. Now our assumption with this one, and I'm just going off the old Mario Maker, is that this is your layers. We don't know if you can have more than 2, because again, they've only showed off 2, which was the same as the old one, but maybe you can, and maybe that's why they have a trolley just representing a number now. And by layers, I just mean subzones. So in the original Mario Maker, you could put Mario on a pipe and he would go to another subzone, and you could edit that and then have him return to the overworld, or underworld, depending on which way you put it. Now the last thing here is 2-player. And let's not pretend that we don't know there's 2-player in the game. There's going to be 2-player. They put Mario and Luigi on the title screen. There's a little red and green dude down the bottom corner when you're editing. We see multiple characters on the promotional art. There's got to be multiplayer here. Like, let's not go and pretending that there's not some sort of multiplayer. We just don't know how far that goes yet. And perhaps the only reason Nintendo didn't go into it is they don't want to have to explain that part yet, like where multiplayer is, and that means explaining where it isn't as well. So my guess here is that we can detach the Joy-Cons. This is their favourite thing to do, and say, here, have one each. And it's probably just for the edit mode at this stage that we know of. So you can just point at the screen and both edit with a Joy-Con. And then for the actual gameplay, it's strange because we see, as I said, we see the promotional art. We see Peach Toad thing, what's the girl Toad name? Toadette there. And we see the Boy Toad there. And then we see Luigi in catsuit, and we see, of course, Mario. So we see the 4 characters here that seem to be running around on the level together. Does that confirm that we're going to be able to play as like maybe 4-player on any one of these? Who knows? Maybe it's just like Super Mario 3D World, and that's the only mode they managed to put 4 players in. Maybe it's all of them, maybe it's none of them. We don't know for the actual level playing part. That's really interesting to me whether they include that into there. And hopefully they don't make it so it's like bonk mode so you can knock people down into pits. Like hopefully it's just no collisions. If it is there in the first place, we don't know. I think that's going to do it for all the big information here. As I said, there's slopes, there's like new enemies and new items and all this new stuff into the game, like the on and off switches. There's so much new stuff here that people are going to play around with, and I can't wait to see the technical backgammon that goes into this and what comes out of the other side, because people are amazing. Like, I love editing, but I'm not amazing as these other people out there that just do this wicked stuff. Puzzle levels and just like speed levels and all this different kind of creative stuff. So I look forward to seeing what they get out of this, because if they got that much, like, I don't know if you guys remember, if they got that much out of the initial Mario Maker to make these really cool custom content, with all this extra stuff they got, what can they do? It's gonna be amazing, it's gonna be wonderful, and I cannot wait. Anyway guys, take your technical backgammon down to the comments. Don't know what that means. And just let me know anything about the game, whether maybe you want to tell me what you saw in there that's most interesting. Maybe there's a certain enemy you're like, that is a cool enemy. I want to mention it down here. You do you, and yeah, I'm going to see you in the next one. Thank you for watching, and remember, for great Nintendo entertainment, you can count on me. Do I still need to do this ending? I don't know. I need some sort of ending. This is it. Bye. Today's end screen, I want to give you a warning, because I tried Tetris 99 Battle Royale -1, whatever you want to call it, last night. And it's addicting as well. Like, I can't believe it. Like, I got to 7th on my first go, and the rush that it gives you get into like those low numbers, it's like, okay, this is actually not too bad. And I ended up playing like another 5 matches. I'm like, yes, no, I can do better. I can do better. And then I'm like, no, you have to go to bed. You have to go to bed. And I went to bed, and that's the end of my story. Bye.